That is the first emperor's tomb, and it's at the center of what is thought to be the largest burial complex in the world. For more than 50 years, an extraordinary army buried for over 2,000 years has been slowly capturing the imagination of the world. This is the first emperor's army. He ordered his real army to be recreated in clay and buried with him, ready to fight his battles in the afterlife. These ancient warriors, once silent guardians of China's first emperor, have stepped out of their underground pits and into the hearts of millions. Is one of the most wonderful views in the world. Over 1,000 warriors guarding their ruler for eternity. Across continents and cultures, these clay warriors continue to fascinate, inspire, and remind us of the power, artistry, and enduring legacy of China's first emperor, where it all began. Buried deep under a hill in central China lies one of the greatest wonders of the world, Albert. Lin just exposed what's hidden beneath the Terracotta Army, and it's terrifying. This remarkable archaeological treasure consists of 8,000 warriors buried over 2,000 years ago, making it the largest burial complex in the world, covering an impressive 22 square miles. What makes this discovery more fascinating is a certain revelation that we'll find out as we journey on in this video. So keep your eyes glued to the very end to find out what terrifying secrets lie beneath the Terracotta Army. Albert Lin, a National Geographical explorer known for his curiosity and quiet sense of wonder, found himself standing where very few people had ever been allowed to go. He had gained rare and remarkable access to the heart of one of China's most mysterious archaeological wonders. As he stood there, he reportedly said that it felt incredible to be in a place so few had ever stepped foot in, a place shrouded in secrets and silence. He described how it felt almost unreal to stand inside a space that has been off limits to nearly everyone, a space that held stories of a world long gone, but still whispering through the clay, stone, and earth. One could almost imagine him looking around, taking it all in, and wondering how many eyes before his had witnessed such an extraordinary sight. His visit wasn't just a casual tour. It was an unprecedented exploration that brought him closer to the first emperor's tomb than most archaeologists would ever dare to approach. He explained that this was no ordinary resting place, but a realm frozen in time, a kingdom built for eternity. What looked like rows of lifeless clay soldiers were in truth echoes of a real army that once marched under the command of China's first emperor. Each warrior was sculpted with haunting precision, their faces eerily unique, as if their souls had been sealed in clay to serve him forever. But centuries later, modern explorer Albert Lin discovered something buried beneath them, something no one was prepared to see. Stay glued to the end, because what he uncovered is truly terrifying. Albert Lin noted that every terracotta soldier had its own unique face, each one sculpted with such care that it felt as if real soldiers had somehow been frozen in time. He was fascinated by this idea, the thought that the emperor believed that his reign would continue beyond death, with an army forever ready to defend him. What kind of power, Lin wondered aloud, must the emperor have wielded to command such loyalty even after death? During his investigation, Lin made discoveries that added new layers to the story of ancient China. The more he saw, the more he realized that the history everyone thought they knew might not be the complete story. How the Terracotta Army got formed. In addition to the life-sized honor guard made of clay, there were also statues of entertainers and officials, a testament to the wealth of China's first emperor. What makes the Terracotta Army a lot more interesting is that the closer you look at them, the more human they seem. Each warrior was crafted from clay mixed with fine earth and shaped in separate pieces. Their legs were made from coiled clay. The torsos were molded, and the heads were sculpted individually. This is why no two faces looked the same. The artisans were very thorough in sculpting the warriors' heads. They added distinct eyebrows, cheekbones, hairstyles, even expressions. After shaping them, they were fired in kilns like giant pottery pieces. The artisans also painted the sculptures of the soldiers. But, unfortunately, we never got to see the terracotta army painted because the paint that was used reacted badly to air. When this historical treasure was first unearthed, another striking detail is the weapons. That many of the figures held were real weapons, not props. Archaeologists have found tens of thousands of bronze weapons, including spears, swords, and crossbow bolts in the pits. Some of these weapons were extraordinarily well preserved, and even the armor the sculpted warriors wore was very realistic. The terracotta army is only a part of the wonders found in the burial ground of the first emperor of China, Qin Shirang. With the sculpted soldiers, many other figurines were found. There were wooden chariots, although many have disintegrated due to time past, bronze equipment, sculptures of acrobats, musicians, and officials. According to historical texts, his tomb included models of palaces, rivers, and even cities. His design supposedly replicated the empire itself in miniature. It is believed that once the figures were complete, they were arranged in the underground pits in strict military formation. Archers, cavalry, infantry, and chariots as if they were preparing for battle. The archaeologists refer to the honor guard as a mausoleum complex. This kind of organization on such a grand scale is simply mind-blowing. Of course, the emperor had his reasons for wanting such an entourage. Even in death, it was as much a show of power and wealth as it was absolute belief in the concept of the afterlife, life after death. The scale and ambition of the project reflect not only his political power, but his reach. If you think carefully about it, about 700,000 conscripted workers mining or collecting clay, organizing transport, firing kills, and making weapons. It's like building a whole underground city. Scratch that. It was actually building an entire city underground. When Qin Shi Huang died, the mausoleum project didn't stop immediately. It continued for some time, but his death forced things to be sealed earlier than may be planned. According to tradition, some of the artisans who worked on the complex were executed or sealed inside to keep the secrets of the site, although this might also be due to how intensely secretive and guarded the emperor's burial was. One of the most haunting parts is that despite all this grand planning, the terracotta army pits may have been looted or damaged not long after the emperor died. Ancient texts mention fires, and archaeologists have found signs that some of the wooden roofing structures in the pits collapsed or burned. What's really striking when you step back and imagine it is the combination of vision, terror, and organization. Qin Shang basically intended to carry his empire into the afterlife, building not a simple tomb, but a complex that mirrored his earthly domain. The production process of the terracotta army itself shows just how sophisticated and resource-intensive the operation was. Centralized procurement of high-quality clay, assembly line crafting using molds, plus hand finishing, mass production of life-size figures, detailed painting with mineral pigments, and the inclusion of real weapons. Today, what remains is both a testament to ancient craftsmanship and to the power of an idea that death didn't end his rule in his mind. The structure of the emperor's tomb. Lin isn't a traditional archaeologist in the old-school digging sense. His strength comes from combining engineering with exploration. Over the years, National Geographic has funded several of his projects, including his work on Genghis Khan's tomb. His non-invasive techniques like satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar are what he's used when investigating the Qin Shi Huang mausoleum. When Lin talks about the first emperor's tomb, he often emphasizes how the terracotta army is just the beginning. He argues that the tomb complex is far more extensive than many people realize. In his Central China Field Journal, he highlights recent geophysical evidence that suggests the mausoleum is much bigger than previously thought, possibly hundreds of square kilometers. According to him, the site isn't just a tomb, but a protected underground city. Lin often said that standing among the terracotta warriors felt almost like being inside the emperor's afterlife army. In various interviews, he points out the organization of the figures, infantry up front, cavalry in the rear, and clear military structure. He also frequently speaks on how the terracotta army is a reflection of the emperor's power and pride, and his vision of eternity. But it's not just about the army. Although it sounds like something out of a movie, there are some real reasons people take the danger seriously. According to Sima Qian, a historian writing about a century after the emperor died, there were mechanical crossbows built into the tomb. The story goes that craftsmen made crossbows and arrows that would fire automatically if someone tried to enter. These were supposedly part of the defensive system, not just for show, but set to shoot any intruders. Then there's the mercury. This is one of the wildest traps. Seamen described rivers and seas of quicks. That is liquid mercury inside the tomb made to flow mechanically to mimic real waterways like the Yangtze and Yellow rivers. Why mercury, you might ask? There are two known reasons. Firstly, in ancient China, mercury was linked to immortality. And secondly, from a practical angle, it is terrifying. Mercury is a very toxic substance in whatever form it might take. Modern soil tests around the mausoleum show abnormally high mercury levels. Some legends go even further to say there were quicksand-like sand traps, areas filled with sand that collapsed under a trespasser, burying them alive. There are also stories of turning slates, slabs in the floor that turn, and if someone steps on them, they flip, dumping the intruder onto spikes hidden below. And then there's the sleeping fire biogas or flammable gases in the tomb corridors that could ignite when disturbed, potentially burning or suffocating anyone who enters. All that said, no one has actually documented or proved these traps in modern archaeological digs. The main reason the tomb hasn't been opened is not just fear of mechanical booby traps, but also the risk posed by the mercury. It might be leaking through cracks, and disturbing the place could release dangerous vapors. Everything about the design reflects Qin Shi Huang's personality and philosophy. He was obsessed with control and order, and that obsession extended even into death. Rather than digging in recklessly, he and others advocate using radar, moon detection, drones, and remote sensing to look inside without actually disturbing the structure. For Lin, exploration doesn't have to mean damage. His whole career has been built around that principle, combining technology and respect for the archaeological and cultural context. Another important thing Lin has said and practiced is that exploration must be done ethically and with humility. The fact that this tomb remains sealed despite enormous curiosity shows the weight of responsibility. Every step matters because what's inside might be irreplaceable. Archaeologists and government officials are rightly cautious, and Lin tends to support that caution rather than push recklessly for a grand reveal. The Mausoleum Complex. The tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first Chinese emperor, is not just a tomb, it is a mausoleum complex, and even calling it that doesn't really do it justice. It's more like an entire city, carefully planned, engineered, and built to last for eternity. A city designed not for the living, but for an emperor in the afterlife to operate and serve him even after death. At the heart of the complex is the central burial mound. The mound itself is enormous, about 76 meters tall and shaped like a truncated pyramid. Right under it is where the emperor's inner palace is believed to lie, along with his coffin and treasures. Around the central mound, the entire mausoleum complex spreads outward in layers. The outer areas are large pits and ceremonial spaces meant to support the inner tomb and serve various symbolic and practical purposes. The most famous of these are the Terracotta army pits, each containing hundreds or even thousands of clay soldiers, horses, and chariots arranged in real military formations. In the largest pit, foot soldiers, archers, and infantry are arranged in precise rows. In another pit, the cavalry, the chariots, and a specialized unit are arranged in order. There are many other pits, some holding bronze weapons like swords, spears, and arrowheads, all sharpened and sometimes coated with chromium to resist rust. Other pits held entertainers, acrobats, musicians, dancers, and animals, all made of clay. The idea was to recreate a functioning court, or a city that the emperor could enjoy after death. Some pits even contained replicas of waterfowl, swans, and geese, and other objects arranged in miniature gardens or ponds. It is obvious that the emperor intended to continue to rule supreme even after his death. Although the artistic work is plenty impressive, the engineering behind it is just as impressive. The pits were carefully constructed with packed clay floors, wooden supports, and layers of earth. Drainage systems and reed mats were placed under the soldiers to keep moisture from seeping in and damaging the clay. The builders even reinforced the pits with earthen walls to keep the figures stable. After placing the figures, massive wooden beams were laid across the top, followed by layers of soil, completely concealing the army from view. Over centuries, the wood decayed, which is why the figures today are often found under collapsed soil. But the layers of compacted earth and careful construction helped preserve them remarkably well. The workers also added small walls to divide the pit into long hallways or corridors, which is why the soldiers stand in such neat rows even today. Once the soldiers were all in place, the builders didn't leave the pits open afterwards. The soldiers weren't lined up for display. They were meant to stand guard forever in the dark. Instead, they covered them with huge wooden beams placed horizontally across the top like giant roof supports. Thick layers of planks went over these beams. Think of building a giant wooden ceiling strong enough to hold tons of soil. That's what they did. After the wooden ceiling was built, workers poured layer after layer of soil on top, packing it down until the pit was completely hidden underground. By the time they were finished, the ground above looked flat and normal, as if nothing had been built below it. Over time, the wood eventually decayed and collapsed, which is why the soldiers were found beneath piles of dirt when archaeologists uncovered them. Gateways and corridors were constructed to be used for ritual practices where offerings could be made or ceremonies conducted in honor of the emperor in the afterlife. Of course, these spaces, although less glamorous than the soldiers themselves, show that the mausoleum complex was more than a tomb. It was a functioning ceremonial landscape designed to represent order, control, and the emperor's authority, even in death. What is exactly beneath the Terracotta Army? When people talk about the Terracotta Army, they usually focus on what we can see today. The thousands of clay soldiers and horses standing in a military position, each with its own face, hairstyle, armor, and expression. But once you start asking what lies under them, the story becomes even more interesting. It's not mysterious in the sense of hidden treasure or secret chambers, but it's fascinating because it reveals how smart, careful, and advanced the builders of the first Chinese empire really were. It also shows you just how much work they put into trying to make the emperor's afterlife as secure and impressive as his real life. Their dedication to their craft and the emperor is commendable. To understand what is under the Terracotta Army, you must first picture how these pits were built. Let's go on a visual journey together as I paint this picture. The soldiers aren't just standing on an open ground. The workers dug huge rectangular pits, some of them as long as football fields, going several meters down, most of them between 4 and 7 meters deep. Imagine digging a giant swimming pool, but much longer and deeper. That is the kind of effort we're talking about. They didn't just dig the pit and call it a day. They shaped it, leveled it, and strengthened it like engineers planning a very serious project. Because honestly, they were. At the very bottom of each pit, the workers created a solid foundation. They used a type of packed earth called rammed earth. Rammed earth is basically layers of dirt pressed down again and again until it becomes as hard as stone. They kept hitting it, pressing it, pounding it until the floor wouldn't move or shift. This made it strong enough to hold heavy clay soldiers for thousands of years. Some archaeologists even believe the builders heated the ground with fire before packing it to make it even harder. When you think about that, it's pretty amazing. They were basically doing old-school engineering without modern machines, just skill and experience. Even deeper down beneath the pit, there's a hidden river of mercury that most people will never see, and that is certainly for the best. Like an extra layer of protection, mercury flows quietly under the clay soldiers, running like a silver snake through the earth, stretching all the way from the emperor's tomb. It doesn't roar or splash. It has sat there undisturbed for over 2,000 years, waiting as it slowly poisons the very earth around it. Imagine stepping into a space where the ground itself could slowly kill you. It is not just scary. It is a terrifying reminder to anyone who might disturb the emperor's afterlife that some things were meant to stay buried. Every soldier you see above stands on that river, unknowingly guarding both the emperor and a silent, invisible menace that could still strike. It's like the earth beneath the army is alive, breathing and watching. A perfect poisonous mirror of the emperor's own control over life and death. Every detail, no matter how small, was meant to last forever, preserving the emperor's presence and reminding anyone who entered that this was a place built with purpose, skill, and vision. Even after more than 2,000 years, it stands as a testament to ambition, artistry, and the human desire to leave a mark on the world that cannot be erased.